Cam is serious. He does have a full-blooded questionnaire, and he needs references.
He want to know if his woman is now within that 20 that was passed around.
At a certain point, I think you age out of it. Just enjoy your life.
I can go out there and have 1,000 bodies and want to find a woman who has none. And depending on my station in life, I can still get it.
Cam is serious. He does have a full-blooded questionnaire, and he needs references, okay? He needs to know who, what, when, where, how, and why. And I don't know if it goes back 10 years or if it's back to high school. I'm not sure, but he needs a thorough scrubbing. He may even have FBI investigators going through your cat facts just to make sure that the brothers that you have been with are reputable and pure and righteous men, and nobody that he knows, because he can't have anybody that he's ever associated with or done business with who is senior cheeks. So he's being thorough, and I don't know if that's a trend. I mean, what do you guys think? Do you think the Cat Facts questionnaire is going to catch on that Cam's pushing?
I think Cam is I think it's I feel like it's a little bit hypocritical. Okay, I mean, now I do think it's relevant to ask a person's background, right? That's a safety first thing. So I think he's well within his bounds to ask that. I gotta say, I feel like he should just pick a number, okay, and just ask a woman dead on, yo, are you above or below? And she, and just let it go. You know what I'm saying? If she above, they're like, yeah, man, thank you for your time, whatever. But I feel like just ask women over and over again. He moves in big circles. He's banged a lot of chicks, I would assume, I guess, whatever, right? And maybe he doesn't want the crossover between them and their friends and whatever. But it's a network, man. It's a womanhood. It's a sisterhood of traveling pants. It's 6 degrees of separation. So I'm assuming he's asking because he doesn't want somebody who's been around. But then what I'm saying then is look at Aisha Curry. You know what I'm saying? Get you a fresh one and you still gonna have problems. Bruh, just let it go. If you like the chick, you like the chick. You know what I'm saying? Ask her what she was doing for the last 18 months. Okay? Whether or not she's incarcerated, that can be, your red flag for you or whatever. Y'all can make your own decisions. But last 18 months, have you had any gangbangs? How many bodies did you catch? You know what I'm saying? How many times, that kind of thing. Just give her a little period. Run it back. I think he's probably the wrong person to carry this message. He's probably the wrong one. He needs to be somebody else doing that. He needs to just give a number that's like 60% of his number and let that be fair. That's what I'm saying. Good.
Actually,
or people like him.
I disagree with that, Jay. I think he's the right person to have this conversation. And I want to thank Cam Newton for saying this because, since the pandemic and those conversations on Clubhouse, this conversation about body count would come up all the time. And I feel like we didn't have a real person who maybe publicly said this to where we could say, okay, cool, let's use him as a case study, right? I mean, maybe I missed it, right? So I thank you, Cam, for being this case study. Now, what did Cam say? Or better question, what did I hear him say, right? Because I don't think it was just a matter of number. He wanted to know specifics in terms of the who's, why would that be, for example? Because he wants to make sure that he's not going to present you as his woman and you actually slept with somebody in the crew. Now, why would he say that? Well, could it be because he's an athlete? You know what I'm saying? Could it be that because sometimes women seem to date certain types, which may include athletes, right? Could it be that he wants to make sure that the woman that he may invest in, right, hadn't slept with his homeboy that he has a strong relationship with, because he even admits that maybe he didn't have the emotional range to deal with a situation like that. But how many of us do for real, for real? Like, could I be with someone, love her, and be in a relationship with her, even though I knew she was with one of my homeboys, right? And then can we be honest about that? And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be honest right now. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it back then because I was in a situation like that. And even though I thought I was this better person because I really did care about her, the truth is that ultimately I couldn't be in a relationship with her, right? I wasn't being honest with myself and I wasn't being honest with her. Right? Because I wanted to be this fairy tale good guy. But like the fact of the matter is that proximity does matter. Like for a guy, for me, who's went to the altar, and maybe I'm speaking from a privileged position, but there is a thing about going to in front of God and family and feeling like, yo, this is my woman. Now, granted, she's not a virgin. Most women aren't. But when I say mine, can I have a mile radius on it or no? Is that too much to ask? I mean, when we look up hotels, it's like, it's just 25 miles away. Can I at least have a mile radius on the woman I'm going to put a ring on? Right? And so how would I know that? Even when you look at the map, you have to put the initial directions there to know what the mile radius is. So I think it's completely in his right, and any man's right, to ask that question. And Jay, you mentioned like his history. What the fuck does his history have to do with anything? Leverage is not fair. Life is not fair. I could go out there and have 1,000 fucking bodies and want to find a woman who has none. And depending on my station in life, I can still get it. And that sucks for those of y'all who always want to do this goose and gander shit. I feel you. You know what I'm saying? Blame God. You know what I'm saying? Because that's just how it works, unfortunately. Okay. So, anywho's, I'm not mad at Cam. I understand this is like a big brouhaha. And if y'all ladies are out there in relationships where you're afraid your man is going to ask you that question, maybe you should have made better fucking choices. And I mean that figuratively and literally. Because that goes back to the whole thing about being a grown ass adult, right? If you're ashamed of the shit that you did, then maybe you shouldn't have done it. Right? But if you can stand on it, then maybe a nigga will respect it. And that's the problem when you ask that question, right? Because he's not supposed to ask. Why the fuck not? Right? But if he does, are you prepared to answer? Right? And so I think some of the brouhaha comes from women who have skeletons in their closet that they wish that their future husband does not ask them about. And that's okay. You know what I'm saying? But it ain't the same. Right? He could sit there and probably tell you about his old hoes, and you look at it as old hoes. But if you told him about your old niggas, he would not look at it the same, and I hate to break it to you. Cry me a river. Which is why y'all would lie, which is why when we have this conversation, say, well, he would never know anyway. Well, guess what? According to Cam, he will know if you fucked his homeboy because niggas talk. You know what I'm saying? In cigar lounges. You know what I'm saying? And if y'all didn't learn by now, these niggas are fucking some of the same hoes anyway. Right? At the end of the day, they want to make sure that these hoes are not a part of their cliques. Right? Because they're not all cliques. You know what I'm saying? I got my group of guys. You got the alphas, you got the caps. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can fuck with some of them, but if you fuck with one of them, it's a little different. Am I lying? I mean, I'm just using these organizations just as examples, and by no means am I categorizing these guys as people who philander and fuck with me just for the sake of fucking them. You know, so we don't do that. But the point I'm trying to make here is just that, like, that's how it is. If you fuck them, cool. As long as you ain't fuck one of us, it gets a little dicey. And I think that's what Cam was saying. And as an alpha male, see what I did there, pun intended, I guess. He has every right to set his boundaries, set his tone, ask his questions, to vet properly. And yeah, man, Cam, do you think, my brother? I ain't mad at you. You know what I'm saying? We ask men to choose better. How are they supposed to know better if they'll ask better? Come on, man.
So this is interesting simply because for once, I'm actually okay with what Cam did. And the reason why I'm okay with it is because those were his boundaries that he set. And if you cool with providing your list, and as Nick pointed out, that was one of my first thoughts was that a lot of these men be having sex with the same women. It'd be like 20 women, y'all. But the world is like millions of women and y'all keep screwing the same 20. So he want to know if his woman is now within that 20 that was passed around, basically within the sports arena or within the entertainment industry, and he's well within his rights to do that. I actually think women should do a better job of vetting and having questions that they're concerned about. So, for example, if a woman doesn't want somebody who has a whole bunch of mileage on him, then she shouldn't get with that person. But 9 out of 10, women don't care about mileage. Let's be honest. They're like, oh, he got experience. Oh, so, but recognizing, right, cute, money, all these different factors that come into play. So the point that women don't actually care about mileage. Some women may do. And so Cam was well within his right. I also noticed, though, that he has a tendency to talk about a lot of things that he do is because he's in competition with men. He wants to one up on men, so to speak. So he talked about how he went to a strip club and he makes sure he throw more money than any of the men there because he's in competition with the men. So why wouldn't that translate to the woman he's with? Why wouldn't it translate? He wanted to make sure that he's not in any competition with any man who's laid with the woman that he's laid with, because once again, he don't want to come in second place. He want to come in first place. So while initially when I first read about this list, I was like, this some more of that Cam bullshit, pineapple hat looking ass bullshit. But then I said, you know what? This is his boundaries and I respect this. I respect this because you know what else just happened? His womb warmer just dropped another baby for him. This baby number 9. They just announced it. And I was like, wow, look at that. And you know what? She filled out the list. As a matter of fact, that's how they got on this conversation because the person asked about, hey, I heard you had a baby on the way. And he like, oh, the baby is here. And it's fascinating because he's still looking for his wife. So while she readily and available provided that list, kudos to them and congratulations. Cam is well within his rights. It is what it is.
I mean, in his particular case, I think, like to Nick's point, it does make a certain amount of sense. If you're going to date within the industry, and I've talked with guys who played in the league. A lot of guys who are athletes, entertainers, a lot of them are real goofballs in real life. They're just goofballs with good genetics. So they're not like natural ladies men, right? So they're passing around the same 15 or 20 women to S&M's point, right? So yeah, in that case, yeah, you might want to know who you've been dealing with. We've heard plenty of cases where they're dealing with their teammates or former teammates or just, you know, homeboys. So that happens a lot if you're going to date kind of in the same social circle. Now, if you're really concerned about this, you go find a little chick from a small town in Louisiana where nobody knows her. You probably don't need to give her the list. You know what I'm saying? But if you're going to date within your social circle, within your industry, especially like in Atlanta or LA or something like that, they're going to all the same parties, hanging out with the same people. Uh, Most of those women, they're not going to date regular guys. They're not dating down. So yeah, I would probably want to know the list, at least just to cover myself, right? But if you're just a regular guy, I wouldn't worry about it. And past a certain age, I think Cam's in his mid to late 30s. At some point, I think I'm not asking a 45-year-old woman about her body count. That's just weird. That's another thing. At a certain point, I think you age out of it. Just enjoy your life. And if she's behaving and doing what you want her to do, just rock out with her. I'm not asking a almost half century old woman what her body count is. That's fucking weird. I'm standing on that.
Well, hold on, real quick, right? Okay, okay. I got a little bit of pushback, okay, because I would venture to say that if a person is going to ask about body count, there was probably a reason for them asking in the first place. It's not a question that I feel like that people probably ask all the time, right? Because we assume stuff based on how a person moves, right? You might see the girl, she's like a librarian or whatever. They're not going to think she has a bunch of bodies. I think most people generally make general assumptions. So I'm just putting the caveat that there may be a reason why that question is warranted, right? In terms of depending on how she's moving. That's number one. Number two, I want to shoot these brothers some bail. I know there's a conversation in regards to like, dating some of the same girls, but if you really think about the fact that as a famous person who's probably also rich, like where can you go? Can you just go to the bookstore and be normal like normal people? I mean, I know some of these athletes may not be that recognizable necessarily, but their schedules may not allow for them to just be out there just meeting the regular girl, right? So what ends up happening is, unfortunately or fortunately, there are women who position themselves and put themselves in proximity. And so most people go for the low hanging fruit. I'm not saying these women are that. I'm just saying that that's easy for them because they put themselves in a position in proximity of these men. And yes, so they end up picking them, et cetera, et cetera. So I do want to shoot them some bail because it's not as easy to just go out there. And then on top of that, the regular girl, does she even want to get with you for real? Because, hey, listen, it's a lot to deal with. I've heard things about you, frat guys or sports guys or whatever, right? So I just think we make it seem like it's easy. So I do understand that because of that, if you're in that environment, you do want to ask questions. You do want to make sure. I don't even think it's so much a body count question. I think it's more of a proximity. Like, who have you fucked that may be in my radius? And that's important to know because I've been out here long enough to know that some of these same niggas are fucking some of these same girls. So I think that's completely legit. But if we're going to talk about like everyday guys though, too, I mean, yes, the body count question, again, if you find yourself having to ask that question, then maybe there's enough evidence that you already know what time it is. And I think
Right.
if we're being honest, and this is what niggas won't say because we're trying to make it seem like we're too cool to be honest. If we think you're a hoe, we're just going to treat you like one. Either we're going to fuck with you or not fuck with you. So it's not like we make judgments. You know what I'm saying? So we act like we don't have that thought. But in truth, a lot of us already make that judgment if we're looking at you that way. Some people may choose to ask the question. I don't necessarily want to make it seem like a nigga's fucked up for asking that question because maybe he feel like he might be wrong. And then if there's a chance for them to work through that and she's honest about it, then maybe they can move on. And here's the thing, like I think people would also appreciate just honesty. I've met women who've been open and honest about their sexuality, and I found that a lot of niggas weren't necessarily turned off by that. Some of them were actually turned on by that to a certain extent. Now, granted, that may not be everybody, and it may be not necessarily for relationships, but you'll be surprised on how many niggas you can probably get to want to wife you if you sucking his dick amazingly. Like, I think that's the thing that's also not said. Because S&M mentioned about how sluts and hoes or whoever are still getting wiped up. You know how? And we'll talk about this a little bit later, is because they're draining balls out there. You know what I'm saying? like it's like, oh my God, I found myself here. You know what I'm saying? It's right. So
Not the value that they're providing, but they're draining
Listen, Nick
balls.
is right. You think you just going there for some for the throat growth, and the next thing you know, you guys are at the cookout with 2 kids. Like, how did I
yeah,
get here?
facts. You know, it's just that you can't be throat goat with my homeboy though, and I think that's what gets
That's right,
lost a little bit, right?
Yeah.
It's not that you couldn't have had experiences. It's just that we're not prepared to want to deal with those experiences in our face. And if we're going to be honest, nobody wants, like, come on, are we going to be honest, fellas, before we transition? Because we have the next topic, Jay. Are we going to be honest? Do you want to be like, oh, yes, this is my woman, and you know one of your niggas hit that? Y'all feel cool with that? Like, I mean, I know there's different lifestyles here, but let's be honest. Can we be honest? Or no?
You're right. And listen, real quick, I got to call the ladies out because I think they're not being honest about this. And well, that's them, you're on the one here. I'm sure, fellas, we've all had this happen. You talk to a lady at some point, and then you guys get to kind of exchanging background information, and you should be like, "Oh, I can't talk to you. You talk to my homegirl in the 3rd grade."
Yeah, it'd be some old
Like
stuff.
what?
Yeah, everybody's got a line, right? Everybody's got something they won't budge on, right? They've got their non-negotiables.
Yeah,
You
you
know what I
dated my
mean?
homegirl in the 6th grade. They do it. That's and them kind of nodded. I didn't know if she was gonna accept responsibility for that or
Oh, no,
not.
I'm not accepting responsibility for them because the past is the past, in my personal opinion. And so the 3rd grade is, and you're a grown ass woman and you talking about 3rd grade, that's
Probably on her
absolute
blessings.
ridiculousness.
Well, look, it's like somebody said. I think Nick says a lot of hurt people, man. People carry their trauma and their pain. You know what I mean? They don't get over that 3rd grade hurt. You know what I mean?